some things that I wanted to spill the tea on today.
Willpower only lasts the time that it lasts, which is why majority of diets fail, majority of things that we set ourselves out to, it kind of fizzles out. We don't give ourselves the time or the space to breathe or the space to check in. How are we actually feeling? Because in order to start making a change, we have to accept the parts of ourselves that are not feeling the best. And we have to accept the parts of ourselves that are still kind of wrestling or struggling in many ways. So if you are feeling in a funk, today we're going to talk about how to rise from that funk. And I'm going to give you 3 powerful strategies to not only help boost your energy, but help clear any sort of emotional clutter. Because Hello, Brave Table fam. Welcome to another episode of the Brave Table. I'm your host, Dr. Neeta, and this is your destination, your oasis for all things just being a little bit more brave in your actions, in your life, and in your relationships. Now, if you are tuning in for the first time, I have a special goodie for you. I am going to set the tone and intention with one of my affirmation cards. They are 52 affirmation cards from my That Suck Now What deck. And let's see. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see me struggling to pick one. Okay. I can sit with my darkness, love my flaws deeply, and choose to transform my darkness into lasers of light, reaping all their lessons and nutrients. Ooh, this is a juicy one. Well, it's great to actually dive right in because I've got some things that I wanted to spill the tea on today. And the chai that I am drinking today, you all know that I am a lover of chai. I've actually been playing around with this new blend. I've been using fresh mint and I've been using cardamom. So I actually have my mortar pistol. You guys can do this as well if you have time in the morning. But I've honestly made it a sacred ritual. And it is one of those things I just do not go without. I learned so much from many of my family members in India. It's so interesting. Like everybody has their own routine of how to make their chai. Like I couldn't be the chaiwala in my family because my mother-in-law likes it one way, my father-in-law likes it another way, my bull likes it another way, and my husband sometimes and rarely ever drinks chai, but when he does, he'll taste mine, but he has to have it in a certain way. So I, like the former chemist that I am, love kind of making my own little concoctions and tonics. And it's just a mixture of love. And I do say a little prayer as I'm making my chai. So I kind of infuse it with some good stuff. But I think for me, it's also just a reminder that no matter what, I know as a mama, things can be so crazy in the mornings. The kids are like hungry AF, or somebody's screaming, somebody's fighting, we're running late. It's a whole thing that I actually, even through the midst of the chaos, I can actually calm down knowing that I'm crushing my black pepper with my cloves. And this morning I put cardamom, cloves, mint, and just a loose black tea. And then I make my cashew milk fresh. So if you don't have Nutter, I highly recommend. But if you have any sort of a high blender, and if you're interested in a recipe, I can definitely whip it together. I know I've shared some on Instagram recently as well. And then I kind of say whatever my mantra or my affirmation that I want to have for that day. And so today it's this, that we can sit in darkness. We can love our flaws deeply and choose to transform darkness into lasers of light, which you all are. And while I share that, I know that we are in the seasonal blues. And I want to speak to this because if you are in the northern hemisphere of the world, it is dark. I know that in, around this time, we have lost our resolutions. We thought we were gonna, go strong for the first 20 days or 30 days. And willpower only lasts the time that it lasts, right? Which is why majority of diets fail, majority of things that we set ourselves out to, it kind of fizzles out. And honestly, there is truth to this, but I also want to speak to the underlying truth that we may not even be talking about, which is this seasonal depression, or the fact that if you are in the northern hemisphere, it gets darker earlier, or you're not waking up with any sunshine. So you're waking up, it's dark. You're leaving your office, it's dark. You are driving and it's dark. And the sunshine regulates our nervous system. That's where we get our vitamin D. And if we're not getting vitamin D from the sun, where are we getting it from? And it's no wonder that many causes of, immuno-related deficiencies, or even our own immune systems, rely on vitamin D. And it's bananas. Like I've been so focused on this, especially even with my family members, because they figured out that they are also living in places where there is a lot of sun. But guess what? They're not stepping outside. So if they're not stepping outside in the first, hour of the sunshine or sunrise, well, they're not getting that vitamin D direct to their nervous system. And then we wonder why we are feeling funky or in a funk. We feel low energy. We have certain ailments, and there are even certain foods that even deplete our vitamin D. And so I've gone on, my own health journey, and I've been paying more attention to this. And you'll probably know that I'll even bring in more guests as we brave our health, because I think that it's such a topic that, especially for me, growing up so early, having to kind of confront medical diseases with my parents. And for those of you who are kind of tuning in for the first time, both of my parents had their bouts with cancer, and I lost a brother to an asthma attack. And so all three members of my family I lost before I was 19. And so, kind of confronting my health at a very, very early age, I became obsessed with wellness and all things wellness. But also, just in this stage and season of life, seeing many of my elder relatives, my in-laws, and now that it's cold and flu season, which, yes, the weather is not so great. We're not seeing that much sun, and we're literally in the thickness of winter if you are living in the northern hemisphere. And that can do some seasonal stuff to us. That can make us feel like we are in a funk. And I think I've shared with you just in other episodes where I just felt like out of my body. I felt so depleted, where I'm like, is it because it's vitamins, or have I not been taking things, or just because energetically I was so depleted? And I was away for 5 weeks with my family. And while there was so many high highs, and lots of dopamine and lots of people and lots of energy and lots of interaction, I think after a time, your body goes, hey, we need to ground. We need to go inward. We need to winter. We need to rest. And biologically, right now, I mean, it's winter season. So we are supposed to kind of go inward. We are supposed to cocoon. We are supposed to conserve energy so that we can start the birthing process of whatever it's meant to make its way out. I mean, astrologically, the signs are saying that, usually in the spring, or kind of when Aries begins, we begin to start understanding and noticing, all right, what projects are we ready to bloom and blossom and work on? So all of the fruits of our labor, if we are wintering, will start to emerge. So if you are feeling in a funk, today we're going to talk about how to rise from that funk. And I'm going to give you 3 powerful strategies to not only help boost your energy, but help you clear any sort of emotional clutter. Because anytime our emotions are feeling high, or we're judging ourselves, and we're kind of stuck in that suck, right? Shout out That Suck Now What. And of course, you can get the book at thatsucknowwhat.com. I'll link it in the show notes. But how to also find flow. And I think, and I want to jump into the first point that I wanted to make here is, oftentimes we really do not know the why behind what we're feeling, right? But we just know, oh, I got to get to that basketball game. I got to take my kids to this thing. I got to go to that school play. I got to, go meet the moms in the group, or I said I was going to go do this, so I'm going to go do that. And I said I was going to go and have more of my girlfriend time, but we're just like running and running and running and running. But we're not really prioritizing the things that we really want to do. And of course, I know that, mamas with kids, I know many times there are a lot of things to do. There are a lot of things that, we have these social obligations. I totally get it. Yet, to take notice of a check in, which is what I like to kind of invite you to, is a POC. And I also talk about this in the book. Actually, it's a free guidebook that you get with all of the resources. You actually can go get it. And if you already have the book, and if you haven't downloaded the free resources, it's still available to you. You go to neetabhushan.com/resources, and you'll be able to get all of the juicy bits, which also teaches you how to allow yourself to be in a POC, which is a personal observation check-in. And what a personal observation check-in is you are taking whatever time you need, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to check in with yourself. And I give you a couple of different questions which you can kind of check in with and see how you're actually feeling. And if this is true to you, or if it's just something that you need to clear. And oftentimes, and this is also in the book, I give you a tool to help you clear your emotional clutter just by feeling it, experiencing it, sharing it, moving through it, and releasing it. And these are the 5 steps. I go into it a lot deeper inside the book. So if you don't have the book, definitely go ahead and get it. You can actually get it on Amazon as well. We just launched a new paperback version, which is super exciting. So if you haven't gotten the physical copy of the book, if you've been listening to me on Audible, this is the first paperback, and we did this so that we made it super easy so you can travel around with it. And for those of you who like to take notes, I kept you in mind. So this is also great to take notes with, to journal on the sidebar. But it gives you all of the tools to kind of go through these steps to clear your emotional clutter. So the first thing that I want to draw your attention to is we have to do a deeper dive into why. So take that moment, do your POC, investigate and introspect. Was it a busy season? Has it been a rough month that you've been sick with your kids? That you're just not giving yourself grace? Maybe you've had family members sick. Maybe you were sick. And maybe you haven't had a place to ground yourself. So to be able to do a deeper investigation into why, I think is actually a good thing, because if we are just on that hamster wheel going and going and going, well, we're bound to bust. Literally, we are bound to bust. We are bound to break down. And, if we are breaking down, maybe the universe is like, ooh, let's take a pause. So oftentimes it will hit us with a cold, or with maybe we're just feeling energetically depleted, but know why. A lot of times we leave the holiday season being so depleted and then having to jump right in again into January. And we don't give ourselves the time or the space to breathe, or the space to check in. How are we actually feeling? Because in order to start making a change, we have to accept the parts of ourselves that are not feeling the best. And we have to accept the parts of ourselves that are still kind of wrestling or struggling in many ways. And so the first part is, be your own little investigative researcher and understand why we're feeling, or we may be feeling the way we're feeling. It could be that, hey, maybe we have some seasonal depression, or that we haven't been able to walk outside. Go outside, get some fresh air, even if it's snowing, even if it's dreary out. There has been, I think it's been a whole week of like no sun and just foggy. I feel like I'm in London right now, but it's foggy, it's rainy, it's wet, it's soggy every single day this week. And I'm like, okay, I can learn how to take a walk, even if it's 5 minutes around the block. And in that time, I'm putting on my shoes and I'm noticing how I'm feeling like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. It's so, it's not so nice outside. And then when I get outside, I'm like, oh, I can feel the rain. It's not so bad. I can feel that it's wet, but I can actually breathe the fresh air. The fresh air is nourishing my lungs. Oh, when I get back inside, I actually did some steps. Great. So, appreciating the small things that you were able to do because you put yourself in discomfort, because you put yourself in good stress. And of course, good stress is one of the main concepts that I talk about when we are shifting our current environment so that we can get out of our funk. So, that is number one. Number two, and I love number two so much because it's going back to the basics. Now, some of you might have heard, really cultivating in Eastern philosophy or in Chinese medicine or even in ancient Ayurveda, how to build your chi and your prana energy. And basically, when we are talking about chi, chi comes from your universal energy. And your chi in Chinese medicine is basically the vital life force or energy that flows through all of us. And it is the balance and the flow of energy within the body, which means that if things are out of balance, we may need some acupuncture or we may need to drink some tea so that we can actually allow ourselves to unblock the energy from different pathways and channels in the body, which are called meridians, which is why sometimes body work is really helpful, or taking a soothing bath, or even self massage, or maybe having grounding herbs and foods and soups. These are all amazing. And even if you haven't tried Qigong is an amazing practice, excuse me, that helps restore the flow of qi within the body. So, and in prana in Ayurveda, this is one of the oldest forms of also universal life force. Prana is our universal life force that is in everything. And if you have ever done a yoga teacher training, they teach you the very first basics, which is pranayama. Prana is life force, and yama is really the art of breathing life into your body. So, prana is not just limited to the physical body, but it's also the mind, emotions, and consciousness. And it is responsible for sustaining life, maintaining your health and overall well being, and your vitality, which is why in yogic practices or teachings, you'll probably learn asanas or postures, obviously, mind control, meditation, and breath control, which is pranayama. So, one of the things you can start cultivating is your own breath work. Now, one of the things that I love doing, and especially with my kids, is taking the 4 counts, or you can even do 3 counts of just breath work. So we can do it together here, where you can breathe in for 3, hold for 3, and release for 3. And we'll do that again. Breathe in for 3, hold for 3, and release for 3. And then final time, breathe in for 3, hold for 3, and release for 3. Amazing. And so this is just one of the practices that we can do to build our prana, our chi energy. And it also gets us out of our funk. Like, how many of you are feeling actually elevated in mood right now just because you did that one round? And that only took about a minute. And there are times in a day where I literally set my timer at the top of the hour. If I've been sitting too long, to go for a walk around the block, and I'll do just 3 rounds of breathing. And that in and of itself, just that box, it's just box breathing. But that resets my nervous system. And that, of course, gives you new energy, new chi in your body. It increases your prana life force in your body because we are using the most nourishing thing that we can give to ourselves, which is our breath. And if we are feeling funky, or if we are feeling anxious, or if we are feeling low energy, if we are feeling tired, chances are we are not fully doing a deep belly breath. We are breathing from our chest. And you guys, we're not giving ourselves life. We're actually draining our energy even more. And then we wonder why we're feeling low energy to begin with. Right? And so figure out what kind of chi or prana life force that you can actually do that can support maybe regulating your nervous system, that can be little reminders throughout your day to snap you out of the funk, to help you rise out from your funk, to help you keep going when you're feeling funky. And lastly, this is really, really good because many times we think that something outside of ourselves needs to get us out of our funk. Maybe it's, going to a really warm place where there's lots of sunshine, or a trip because we're dreaming about it, but it, can't happen for whatever reason. Or you've just had, maybe it's been 10 days of just cold, or not even being able to do the things that you love. But what can you do? What can be in your control, even if you're like, I can't go to that vacation spot that I want to go to now? It's okay. What vacations can you create in your own mind, in your day-to-day routine? And you might say, Neeta, you're dreaming, love. What are we talking about? We're not talking about brave vacations, but can you brave it in your mind? Can you make a list of things that may feel really good to you right now? Really, really good. And I'm talking about juicy. I'm talking about savoring what you can do. You might not be able to take that trip to a sunny spot, but what can you do? You might be in the midst and the throes and the chaos of motherhood. Everyone might be getting sick in your house, because I know that's been happening in my house too. But what can feel really good right now? And actually, before I hit record, I made a list of things that are really feeling juicy for me right now. So it's a really warm bath or a hot shower. And I put some Epsom salts in there because, we all need some magnesium. And that is definitely a mood booster. You might want to check if you have low magnesium. Many times, we have low magnesium. It is one of the most deficient vitamins or minerals that we have in our body. You might want to check into that. And when we take specific types of magnesium, actually, I'm bringing on a guest in the near future who's going to be dishing out all things magnesium and why it's good for us and why it's good for our health. But ever since I had her on the show, her episode's going to be airing later on this year. I mean, it's been a game changer because now I have my magnesium tea and I cannot go to sleep without it, because not only does it help with mood, it also helps with my energy levels. It helps me fall asleep fast. And I'm talking about specifically magnesium glycinate, but there's a ton of different kinds of magnesium. So just look it up and see which one's right for you. But especially for mamas working hard, and many times we're not getting our nutrition from all the right sources, one thing you can put back in your body is by taking Epsom salt bath, which also has magnesium, which also helps elevate your mood. It helps keep you in a calm state. It helps you go to bed easier so you feel rested. And maybe then you have way more energy in the day, and it helps ground and calm your nervous system. So these are one of the things that I just find so juicy right now. And I found a decaf Rooibos tea. Well, Rooibos tea doesn't really have any caffeine in it. So I like to call it decaf because I've just made a decaf chai, which I really, really love. And because Rooibos, it has that darker kind of aroma and it has a very distinct taste to it that in the afternoon, if I'm like looking for something warming with some spices, I'll throw in some ginger and I will whip up some rooibos chai with a little bit, like a splash of, any of my nut milks. Usually I'm into now, well, these days I'm into making my own cashew milk, but and a little bit of honey. And that's kind of my go to. And it helps me ground. I feel really nourished doing that. When I'm, picking up the kids or schlepping them to whatever after school thing, it's always in my hand, lighting a candle, having fresh flowers in the house. That, my friends, is a non-negotiable. And I do have dried flowers on my desk, but fresh flowers, that's actually, for me, it's been a pick me up. And it has been a huge just essence shifter. It shifts the entire essence of a room that I'm in to have fresh flowers. And so this is my list. I'm not saying you need to use whatever is in my list, but maybe this sparks you to figure out what may feel really good. And some other things that feel really good is putting on my sensual playlist. If I only have 3 minutes and I'm getting ready, I will play my sensual playlist. I will close all my doors in my closet and I will start to dance and move my body and shake my hips and just move in ways that make me feel good, make me feel sexy, make me feel tuned into my body, giving my body what it needs. And you would be surprised coming from like low energy or just, somebody had a meltdown, a crying fit for 20 minutes, and you're kind of like, yes, I can transform that energy into juicy hotness and just for me. And for you guys, it might be something else. But I've also enjoyed allowing myself to stretch in certain positions, honestly, elevating my mood 100%. Guess what? It doesn't take that long. These are micro moments in the day that can add to elevate your mood and get you out of that funk. And not only that, watching some good stand-up comedy. I'm not the one that likes to watch scary shows at night. There's no way you can get me to watch any thriller, any ghost shows, anything that has it's a wreck to my nervous system. I do not want to get scared, and that's just not me. So I put on stand up. And we learn a lot from just bouncing the energy and how comedians just do that so well. They go from really low to really high to making you cry sometimes to, it's a full emotional roller coaster. And I just devour it. It is incredible. But also fun creative projects with my kids. We've literally been, because we've had to, be indoors a lot lately. So making craft projects. And who doesn't want to get our inner artist activated? Like bring out that inner 7-year-old that loved to paint or that loved to watercolor or that just, there's these meditative coloring books out there. They are there for a reason. So utilize it. And you'll be surprised at how you can get into your flow state. Now, the flow state means that you are literally in the zone. It's a mental state characterized by a complete immersion of an activity. So maybe it's, when you're playing the piano, or maybe when you're dancing, or when you are at a deep focus sensation with heightened awareness of what you are doing and effortless engagement. I mean, this is powerful. And it was first described by the incredible psychologist, and I still have the book today. It's a pretty old book that I picked up, gosh, I want to say maybe over 10 years ago. But Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, he's a positive psychologist. And his book, Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. And of course, Stephen Kotler has written about flow as well. But he was the first one who basically wrote an entire book around flow. But he identified several key characteristics of the flow state. And the first one is you have to have intense focus. And so with whatever you do you have intense focus? And I've just shared a couple of examples of that, but you get lost in your own self-conscious. So you're absorbed within the activity. You're not worried about anybody else. You're not worried about, all the to-dos. You are just in full flow. There's this essence of timelessness that you could just keep going and going and going. It's kind of like you're bending reality in a way. And you have a sense of control. Despite your like fully intense focus, it feels like you have a sense of mastery. I mean, you might be doing coloring that, might not be Picasso art, but because you're in such a state of flow, and swimming actually gets me in this state where you are just, this is you, and then you are in the zone. You also have effortless action, and you're elevating your dopamine levels because you have intense motivation, either to finish what you've started, like any of those coloring books, or when you're just dancing with reckless abandon. What gets you in that full flow state? And it might change in every season. But if I just awakened your inner artist, you are going to have to let me know. So let me just recap. So we talked about figuring out your POC and doing a deeper dive and investigation on what feels good for you and why you're feeling out of alignment, like what actually happened. So go a little bit deeper instead of putting a Band-Aid over it. And 2, how to actually build your chi and your prana energy. What can be done that you can actually take control of in your micro moments in the day. And then the last one is make your list. Get into your flow state. What gets you into your flow? It could be different, but I just kind of went through my daily list of nourishing things lately in this wintering season. So, thank you so much for being here. I wanted to wrap up by saying there are still spots available. And if you are feeling like you are in a funk, come join me and book your ticket to see me at the Art of Living Center. It is my 3-day retreat along with Sri Ravi Shankar at his Art of Living Center. I will be doing my 3-day deep dive on the sacred grounds of Boone, North Carolina. Share it with a friend, bring your mom, bring your grandmother, bring your partner. I think this is the weekend for you that you get to pour back in yourself. You get to revitalize your own energy and be with me. And we get to create a beautiful special container where on day 3, you leave, that weekend you leave with not only tools to help you manage your daily stress, but also releasing the emotional baggage. Maybe you've been carrying a lot this past year, and maybe this is what you need in order to fly forward in your next chapter. So, will you say yes to you this year? Spots are still available to room and bunk with somebody new. I will put that in the show notes as well. And if you haven't already left a 5-star review, if you thought that somebody else can use this episode, please share this with a friend. It helps us grow the show so much and get into the hands of way more people. And if you are on iTunes, all you have to do is click the follow button. It helps us grow more than you know. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope this added a lot of value for you. And until next time, on the break table.
Like, have you ever tried to shit on 2 toilets at once? And I was like, no, what the hell? And he's like, yeah, exactly. It would get messy. So pick one, pick a business and stick to it for the long haul. Create a vivid vision for what it is that you want this business to